Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
Continuing some draft talk, and joining us right now from NFL.com. You probably check out his 7-round mock drafts. I do all the time. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chad, first of all, Chad Reuter from NFL.com joining us. UWC undergrad alum back in the day too, Chad?
That's right. Graduated in, I'm not going to even say the year. It was a long time ago. But yeah, undergraduate, did my undergraduate work there and then went on to Madison for grad work.
Awesome. So
love the old UWEC, beautiful campus.
Absolutely. Have you got to come back up? I don't know, maybe you have, check out the new Sonatag Center basketball arena and such too. I haven't yet. I do have to get up there and see that. Definitely. So, well, Chad, again, big thanks for hopping on and catching up with us here in the Chippewa Valley. So let me just kind of ask you generally, with this draft coming up, what are the positions that you think have the greatest amount of depth in this upcoming draft?
I think you'd have to look at the defensive tackle class. There's going to be a lot of guys picked 5th, 6th, 7th round. They're going to contribute rotationally, maybe even become starters on the defensive line. So I think that's the first part. The second part is best is probably running back. We've seen this in drafts over time where you have 15 guys or more picked on day 3, and a lot of them will contribute as rookies, whether, again, it's part of a rotation or stepping in and getting 12, 15 carries a game, sometimes, in the red zone. And I think this is going to be another year for teams that can hold off a little bit on that position until, 4th or 5th round and get a guy that can start for them.
I got to ask, how the heck can you do a 7-round mock draft, man, and know all those players? I mean, that's got to be quite the process to do 7-round mock drafts.
It's a cumulative process. I start in May for the next draft, so I'm very familiar with these players and many more. But really, because I do a 3-round right after the Super Bowl, so I kind of get the ball started, and then the combine and all this stuff. It just kind of builds over the months, and but yeah, it's interesting trying to place those last guys, at the end of the draft and have it make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. Hey, we haven't seen a trade yet, and I believe this is the closest we have gotten to a draft where there hasn't been a trade that's involved any first-round picks. Now, I know in your latest 7-round you do have some trades, mocked some trades in there. Is there if there's a player that kind of falls in this draft, could you see a team maybe jumping up to move and get that player? And who do you think that player potentially could be?
Well, I think there's two potential choices. You've got Abdul Carter, who, it's hard to tell what's smokescreen and not, but if teams aren't 100% thrilled with his football character, if he's not the greatest teammate or something like that. It's kind of the stuff we heard about Jalen Carter that ended up having him fall to 9, even though he's one of the top 2 or 3 players in that draft class. If something like that were to happen and Carter is available, say, at 5, for some reason, the Jaguars could move out of that spot for a team that would be very interested in him, which, would be many teams. Mm-hmm. So that's one possibility. But I think the better possibility would be if Ashton Genty, running back from Boise State, makes it past the Patriots at 4, the Jaguars may get some phone calls from the Bears, from the 49ers, from the Cowboys, and maybe others to see if they could wrestle him, away from the Raiders, who would, I'm pretty confident would take him at 6. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the 2 guys that, we should look for potentially if there's going to be a trade at the top. But I haven't projected any top 10 trades this year because honestly, 3 of the last 5 years or something like that, there really haven't been any trades early in the draft. Teams are just kind of willing to let it play out without making any moves. So I don't project any happening at this point.
Do you feel like, or maybe it's a different player, but Shedeur Sanders, I mean, there's, again, like you said, I don't know what's smokescreen or what's real out there, but I mean, we've seen him mocked as high as, top 5, maybe even falling down to Pittsburgh. Is he the most intriguing player in this draft in terms of, he could go all across the board, or is there maybe another player you have in mind for that?
I think Sanders and Jackson Dart are both in that category. I think both of them could be top 10 picks, and I think Sanders is pretty likely to go top 10 if he doesn't go to the Giants at 3 or the Raiders at 6, the Jets at 7. I would think he would be at the Saints at 9. I don't think he makes it past the Saints. But Dart is a guy that I've had in the top 10 for a while, and I'll be very interested to see if teams, just because of the demand for quarterbacks, in the top 10, I just listed, 4 teams that could take one. And so I think Dart is another guy who could go to the Saints. If Sanders is off the board at 3 or 6 or 7, then the Saints could very well take Dart at 9. He would be the kind of quarterback that new Saints head coach Kellen Moore would appreciate.
NFL
But he could fall to the Steelers too. That's quarterbacks are, and that's not just, by the way, in the first round. In the second round, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shook, Quinn Ewers. I mean, these guys could go early 2 or go mid 3. I mean, it's going to be wild to see where these guys end up getting picked.
You mentioned those quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe and Ewers and such. That's where I was looking at day 2. Like, I love day 2. I don't know if I'm in the minority, but I love day 2, like round 2 and round 3 and such. And you see those are big-time college quarterbacks over there. Could you see a potential kind of run on those guys that maybe a team doesn't necessarily have a starting quarterback need right away, but maybe in the next couple of years or so?
Well, yeah, for sure. That's a definite possibility because, look, Cleveland, we all know Deshaun Watson's time in Cleveland's probably gone. And just because a team signs a guy like Sam Darnold or Geno Smith or Justin Fields, those kinds of veteran acquisitions have actually resulted in more rookie quarterbacks being taken in the first and second round because those guys are not necessarily brought in as 100% going to be our starter for the next 5 years. They're just not. They sign a 3-year deal and they may be gone after 1 or 2. So I think there's going to be a number of quarterbacks. We're going to have 8 or 9 quarterbacks go in the top 3 rounds, and some of them, a number of them are going to be teams that signed veterans leading in. We see that all the time. Mm-hmm. After Kirk Cousins was given $180 million, and then they took Michael Penix in the top 10 by the Falcons last year, rookie quarterbacks, are not bothered by veteran contracts anymore.
Yeah, good point. Chad Reuter from NFL.com joining us, draft analyst, draft expert. Now, with the Packers here, I think if you ask a lot of fans, at least the fans that chime in with us, they're looking at defensive line, defensive end, corner, wide receiver, maybe even offensive line depth there. How does this draft shape up for those 4 position groups, if those are the 4 biggest needs for the Packers?
Yeah, they can do pretty well at edge or defensive tackle a little bit later in the draft. I think they can get, like, for example, in the latest mock, I would have them taking JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State. They could also take Jack Sawyer from Ohio State in the second round. They can get a defensive tackle a little bit later in the draft. There's a guy named Zeke Biggers from Georgia Tech who's very similar to T.D. Slayton, and so you could see that as an easy fit to kind of bolster the line, the run defense. In the first round, there's not a ton of great receivers in this draft. And so I could see them moving up like they did for Christian Watson in the first round if their last remaining receiver was on the board, say at 19, Tampa Bay, they move up. Their last first-round receiver, I should say, it moves up. I could see them moving up for him. If an edge defender falls into that same area, I could see them moving up for one of those as well. So I think you can see that. And corner, I don't know if there's going to be a corner. If a corner like Will Johnson falls into the 15-16 range, maybe they move up. Maybe they like Jahdae Barron from Texas enough to move up for him. But the corner draft is not as deep either, so they may want to consider a move up for one of those guys if they want a true difference maker in the secondary.
I know Brian Gutekunst held his presser yesterday, and a popular player that was talked about was McMillan, the receiver out of Arizona. Yeah. But would Green Bay, do you think, would almost have to trade, I don't know, top 10 or just outside the top 10? If that's the guy that they really are targeting, do you think they'd have to move up quite a bit to try to get him?
Not necessarily. Depends on what the Cowboys do. In my mock draft, I have them taking Matt Golden from Texas rather than McMillan if they want more of a speed guy rather than a a size guy that can has the physicality and the hands to be that kind of receiver. They had interest in DK Metcalf, the Cowboys did, so they may take McMillan at 12. So they may have to move up, but there's a chance that they don't, and they go with a guy like Golden instead. And so then McMillan could be available even to Seattle at 18. So if the Packers were able to, say, make a deal with the Cardinals at 16, if the Cardinals want some more picks, they could, potentially get their hands on McMillan or Golden if he's available, or Luka like I have in the mock draft that I put out. So they could move to 16 or 19 and try to land one of those top guys.
I want to go back to last year's draft because it affects Green Bay this year. But Jordan Morgan, who was the first-round pick last year for Green Bay, we heard Goody and Matt LaFleur talk about they're going to give him a shot this year to play that left tackle spot, to win that left tackle spot. What was your analysis on him last year, and do you think he can be a starting left tackle at the National Football League?
Yeah, I think he can be a starting left tackle. I preferred Graham Barton coming out of Duke to Morgan as a prospect, and a lot of people automatically thought Barton would shift inside to center, and he's been a good center. But I don't think he needed to do that. I think they could have taken Barton. He could have played tackle or guard for him. But I think Morgan's good enough to be a starter. I don't know if he's going to be a plus starter or just kind of an average starter. We'll see. But he wasn't the guy that I liked necessarily at that spot last year.
I know you got for Cleveland Travis Hunter in your latest mock, but if you are the general manager for the Browns, would you go Hunter or would you go Abdul Carter to pair up with Myles Garrett?
Travis Hunter, 100%, 150%. I'd go Travis Hunter. He's the best player in the class. He's a unicorn. He's going to play both ways. He's going to be an excellent player. Smart kid, knows the game, great ball skills. He's a fantastic player. So to me, it's not really even close.
And then just a final question here for you, Chad. You mentioned him a little bit earlier, but Ashton, the running back from Boise State, do you feel like he is that guy that maybe gets teams a little antsy and to really try to move up and get him in the first round if he's there? I know you kind of mentioned Abdul Carter a little bit earlier too, but it feels like Ashton is the guy that a lot of teams, at least from social media that I read, that are just enamored with him.
Yeah, I've had him going 6 to the Raiders since February. He may not even make it there. I think Genty is really that guy kind of a player. And guys, people talk about how running backs are devalued, but Saquon Barkley goes 2, Leonard Fournette goes 4, Zeke Elliott goes 4. I mean, it happens regularly. Running backs are taken that high, and Genty got as good of a grade as, maybe not as good as Barkley coming out, but just slightly below that. And he's going to be a fantastic player.
Who's the last one here? Who's maybe the one team in the first round you're kind of intrigued about what they're going to do with their pick?
The Jets, I think, are very interesting. Do they take a quarterback? Do they go for offensive line? Do they take Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State? They're really a question mark. And don't leave out Jackson Dart. They say all the good, right things about Justin Fields, but the fact is they gave him basically a 1-year contract, and you're going to want competition. So the Jets are a really interesting part. I have an article, 5 pivotal spots in the first round. You can find it on NFL.com, and I talk about them and other teams.
Awesome. Chad, big thanks, man, for joining us here this morning and breaking it down. I know it's a busy week for you, so we appreciate it. And, Walt, when you come up and check out Sign and Tag, let us know, and we'll catch a basketball game or something together up there, okay, bud?
Yeah, sounds great, Dan. Thank you so much.
You got it. There you go. Chad Reuter from NFL.com.